This is the Game Boy Advance. In fact, this is mine. In 2003, not long after my brother had his, I was allowed to have my very own, and damn, the memories with this device are unprecedented. I always remember playing Golden Sun, Sonic Adventure 3, Dragon Ball Z Supersonic Warriors, and especially the Pokemon games released for the system. Oh, and play Super Robot Tyson Original Generation 1 and 2. So good. At the same time, I was loving my PlayStation 2 and I noticed some games got ported from that system to the Game Boy Advance. Considering the difference in power and specifications, could the Game Boy Advance really do these home console games any justice? To find out, I played 7 games that saw release on the PlayStation 2 before heading down to the Game Boy Advance. I played both platforms using emulation, but I also made sure the visuals were true to what a real PlayStation 2 or Game Boy Advance looked like, having no enhancements whatsoever. Let's see what the Game Boy Advance can do when console games get ported to it. Guilty Gear X is first to be tested. This 2D fighting game is a port of the Dreamcast version released the year prior only in Japan. The PlayStation 2 version is a great port, although we do lose the 480p progressive scan support of the Dreamcast version. Otherwise, this game has fantastic graphics, brilliant gameplay with fluid controls, and one of the best soundtracks ever made for a fighting game. I truly recommend it if you don't have it already. In 2002, just over a year later, Guilty Gear X came to the Game Boy Advance. The game loses the FMV at the beginning and the graphical downgrades are apparent with smaller sprite sizes and lower colour depth. However, the game is faithful to the console version and all of the moves are intact. The gameplay is still great and I actually had a lot of fun playing this port. Arc System Works in this aspect did this port justice. The soundtrack, although composed the same as the PlayStation 2 version, is not amazing, although some songs sounded okay for the platform's limited sound chip. Overall, a pleasant surprise and recommended for your Game Boy Advance collection. Next up, Max Payne. This PlayStation 2 port was first on the personal computer. I feel while not as good as the personal computer version, this version is still a good time and the controls are workable enough. This third-person shooter has you play as Detective Max Payne, whose wife sadly dies and now he wants revenge. The gameplay is interesting. You can use bullet time to slow down the gameplay, allowing you to shoot and move faster. Not to mention, use this epic dodge and shoot mechanic to aid you in killing the bad guys who get in your way. I had a good time here and it's not a bad way to experience this classic personal computer title. Just 1 year later, the game came to the Game Boy Advance in 2002. Amazingly enough, they managed to have digitized voices throughout the game and they sound quite good. The game is now an isometric 3D shooter. It is faithful to the story and levels I experienced in the PlayStation 2 version, although the levels themselves are smaller. The camera is not great, it moves all over the place and I felt a little sick after a while. The movement controls are not the best and trying to shoot enemies takes time to get used to. Luckily, the bullet time made it in, although nowhere near as satisfying to use. This port is okay, but really I'd only use it if you are very desperate to get some Max Payne on the go back in the day. Next up, Spy Hunter. It was first released on the PlayStation 2 in 2001 and it was a reboot of the 1983 arcade original. Now a 3D driving game, Spy Hunter puts you in charge of the Interceptor. a high-tech vehicle that is equipped with weapons, turbo boosts, and a mode to work on water, and you become a motorcycle when you become too badly damaged. Playing the game today, you can tell that this was an early PlayStation 2 effort, as some of the gameplay is imprecise and a little bit janky, but I still had fun going through the levels and at least everything was clearly marked on screen. The controls are decent with good handling, and I felt good running down these soldiers with my car. Yes, this game is 11+, by the way. The Game Boy Advance got a port a year later in 2002. Goodness me, how many games got ported to the Game Boy Advance in 2002? This game is, amazingly enough, a 3D driving game, just like the PlayStation 2 original. The missions are the same, although the layout is slightly different. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw how they decided to explain the mission objectives to you. Just sprites in place as the camera circles it. That is too funny. Sadly, the game is annoying to play. The turbo boost kept going off when I did not want it to, and when I did want it, the boost did not activate. Shooting enemies feels weak, the controls are too loose, and unlike the PlayStation 2 version, the objectives have no coloured orb around them. I was never sure what to shoot at until I took damage first. This port doesn't do it for me, unfortunately. I did try a few more PlayStation 2 to Game Boy Advance ports, so check them out, and I will see you at the end.
producer feels like.
That was fun to do, right folks? Of course, the ports from console to the Game Boy Advance were always going to give us mixed results. The power difference meant that developers either had to make a game completely differently to work with the Game Boy Advance's limited power, or they could be ambitious and try to recreate the console experience on the go. In this video, Guilty Gear X was my favourite game by far on the Game Boy Advance for managing to be fun and keeping the console experience intact. V-Rally 3 was also impressive, and I actually preferred it over the PlayStation 2 version. 007 Nightfire was a good shout, although I felt the gameplay was a bit basic and the frame rate less than ideal. Mind you, this was still an interesting port to experience. What do you folks think of the PlayStation 2 to Game Boy Advance ports featured in this video? Should I check out any more? Tell me in the comments, and I will see you soon.